Welcome back to Jolly Good Fellows, episode 11. Guys, we got no notes for y'all today. We're firing off the hip. This is a pure, honest reaction. Of course, it's 2 days after the fact, but we're here today to talk about the Pop-Tarts Bowl, to talk about offensive coordinator stuff, really just whatever the heck we can think of. It's safe to say that Patrick and I have not been the happiest campers in the last 2 days, and I'm sure you haven't either, and that's why we're all here together in our misery. Patrick, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? Yeah, it's a brutal bowl game, brutal loss. It's been absolutely miserable, really, since November 1st. That's been bad thing after bad thing happening in the program. And really, you could say the only bright spot is we didn't lose five in a row, ending the season, which we very well could have. Bowl game was really kind of a disaster. I mean, I know BYU's a really good team, but you had three shots to get to 10 wins. Clearly it meant a lot to the program, to the team, and didn't get it done. And now there's a lot of uncertainty going into the offseason. And what a lot of people thought was going to be a really special season and really should have been a special season is now I don't even know how I want to classify it. I'm going to wait a little bit before I completely give it a letter grade, but it certainly was not up to the standard that it should have been, especially given the start. So that's where I'm at right now. But I was pretty upset after the game. I'm still not in a great mood, but it's worn off a little bit. But the ending of the season has just been a complete disaster. That's
I don't
just
know if
not.
that was a piece of dust or a ghost or what, but there was like an orb that just went flying by my head. That was kind of scary. No, yeah, I agree, man. It's been rough. And I feel like a lot of people might have just clicked off hearing us talk about a lot of things that most people are probably trying to get over by now. So I do want to say as well, we won't be doom and gloom. There it goes again. That might be a ghost, man. We won't be doom and gloom the entire time. We're going to give our thoughts on the bowl game and kind of like Patrick alluded to, the season overall. Just again, whatever the heck comes to our mind. But you were at the bowl game, Patrick, and I from what it looked like, it was a pretty decent atmosphere. How was it in that regard? Was it a good
Yeah,
turnout?
a lot of credit to the Tech fans, and I really got to give it to Tech fans all year. I'll say that's been positive to see that this fan base turned back out to what it should be. There are definitely more Tech fans at the game than BYU fans. They got loud. I have some pretty cool videos of the Budweiser song. I'll share those on the Twitter or on our Twitter account or X account so you guys can see it. But it was a good atmosphere. It was loud. A lot of Tech fans there, and so I will say that that's probably one of the big positives from the season has really been the fan interaction and seeing the stadium fill back up and be loud and really be a tough place to play for opponents. And so hopefully, I think next year the good news is we have a really good home schedule starting out hot next year with Colorado and Tennessee. So
Mhm.
you have to think that those crowds are going to be really good going into next season. Uh, but it was really cool. Orlando, the bowl game in general, I think that the Pop Tart Bowl does a really good job putting on the event.
Yeah.
I mean, I did eat some Pop Tarts. I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of back on them. They're good. So they did a great job putting on the event. And I'll give BYU fans some credit. They got there, and I think they're a pretty classy bunch of fans. They love their team, and they're pretty easy going but passionate. So and they have a good team and a good coach.
Yeah, as far as that goes, I've got nothing but good things to say about BYU. I mean, Kalani Sitake really impressed me throughout the week, and all the post game, or I'm sorry, all the pregame pressers and stuff like that. He seemed like just a stand-up guy, and a dude that a lot of people, not surprised that a lot of people want to play for him. So no surprise that they're having the success that they've had, and obviously a piece of that success was coming back against Georgia Tech in that bowl game, and let's talk about that. I mean, it sounds like it was a good atmosphere. You call it an advantage for Georgia Tech, and it seemed like they were kind of able to get some early momentum. Obviously, the first couple drives for Tech, the first drive didn't go too well until they get inside the 5 yard line, really down to close to the 1 yard line. And I was telling a buddy, because of course, as soon as Georgia Tech starts to play bad, I get all these text messages. Y'all's defense is Swiss cheese. Your defense is so bad, this and that. I'm just like, all right. I mean, yes, you're right, but let's see how it plays out. The goal line is where we've kind of stood tall throughout the season, and they do it. They're able to stop BYU's offense right there at the goal line and kind of get some momentum from that. What was that like for you guys, Patrick, being there? What was going through your head at that point?
I thought the defense, made a huge stop. It was pretty. They were literally inside the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
Defense held strong. I know that Blake Gideon probably will get some, blame for this game, but the defense overall, I think, did enough for Georgia Tech to win. If the defense would have played like that against NC State or the first half against Pitt, you're probably looking at different results in some of those games, I think. So I'm not even going to really put this on Blake Gideon. I think that you put the game on really Brent Key. I hate to have to say this, but his clock management at the end of the first half and at the end of the game was just atrocious. And it's something he has to get work on going into next year because that was on him. And I don't want to people to say I'm dogging on Brent Key or I think he should be on fire. No, nothing like that. But he clearly has a weakness in time management at the end of games because if you look back at Boston College, at the end of that game could have been a catastrophe the way he didn't realize that, how the ball was spotted at the end of the game. And for whatever reason, right before the half, anytime we get to those 2-minute drills before the half, we don't commit halfway. If you're going to commit, go full steam ahead
100%.
and try and score instead of these half-ass little drives that we were doing. And you get across the 50, but by that time you're not being aggressive enough or managing the clock well enough. It's too late. So you really blow an opportunity there. And then I don't even want to get started on the end of the game when we converted that 4th and 15. But that's my big takeaway from the game is Brent really, I don't know what it is, but the clock management skills are not there right now. And you could say it was pretty good against Clemson. That was a really good ending, and he handled that very well. But there's been a lot of instances where it just doesn't seem like it's getting better, and I don't think that should be a secret to anyone who watched the game. Brent certainly, I think, has a lot of flaws that he's shown in his coaching, and he can get better. It's not like these aren't fixable things. He can get some staff around him. He can get some offensive people around him to help with the red zone, which he's not fully responsible for. But those are my big takeaways, and I think that he's got to fix that because if not, you're going to continue to lose games like we have the last couple of seasons due to these clock mismanagement.
Yeah, that was an interesting take. I feel like a lot of people are going to have something to say about kind of removing some blame from Blake Gideon because he's been under a lot of fire. I mean, it seemed like after the Georgia game, Patrick, a lot of folks were feeling a little more optimistic. The second half of the Pittsburgh game went pretty well, and the Georgia game, holding that offense to just 7 points as far as touchdowns go was pretty encouraging. And then you go into this game, you get the goal line stand, and as bad as that first drive looked, you're like, all right, whatever. And late in that football game, BYU sitting there with 10 points, and I said it in a tweet or maybe in the video I recorded, I can't remember, but it in my opinion on it is that the scoreboard looked a lot better than the unit had actually played for most of that game. I mean, for Georgia Tech to have only given up 10 points going into that fourth quarter, to me, was a massive, massive victory. I mean, it's easy to look at our missed opportunities and say, okay, we had so many opportunities to put the game away, and that's absolutely true, and we should have made more of those opportunities. But BYU did exactly the same thing. I mean, we just talked about the goal line stand on the first drive. They had another drive where they threw a pick to Rodney Shelley. Shout out for him for making a heads-up play there in the end zone to get an interception. Well, heads up to make the pick, not so heads up to run out. Whether he was pushed out or ran out, that's up for debate, I guess. But still, made a great play to get the ball back for Georgia Tech there. And, yeah, it just seemed that BYU was able to move the ball pretty efficiently for most of the game, and Tech was able to make the plays when they needed to throughout 3 quarters, of course, and then late in the game. It seems like we were playing not to lose rather than playing to win, and that was kind of apparent to me when we kicked on 4th and 2. Inside of the 30, 25, something like that, ends up getting blocked, and now we're it's still an 11-point game rather than 14. That I didn't like that. What were your thoughts on that part?
Yeah, I would have been fine with, I guess, the protection. I didn't really actually go back and watch that. I tried to block that out of my memory, but the play calling beforehand, I think it was 3rd and 8. And so if you're going to do a running play up the middle, which correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was, then that makes it seem like you're setting it up to go for it on 4th down. If not, you're going to run a play that guarantees you get the first down. That way, I mean, you're kicking on 4th and 8 compared to 4th and 2. So I agree. I think that you're going to be aggressive in a bowl game. And Matt Thompson or you and I were texting about this. Brent preaches a lot of hey, we're going to play but he played timid a lot. I think that he was being ultra conservative, and it doesn't seem like
he's playing not to lose, man. It's playing not to lose.
Like there were so many opportunities in that game for Georgia Tech to put the final kill shot in BYU, and they didn't do it repeatedly, and that was an example of it. But at the end of the day, credit to BYU because they won. They had a heck of a season. They've won 12 games. Kalani Sitake is really that program he's got that thing rolling there. But yeah,
they've always been a good program. I feel like BYU's always been.
And honestly, I'm tired of playing them because we don't beat them anymore. So I think we've lost 4 in a row to them now. So I'm good not seeing them for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shouldn't have been that way this time around.
Yeah.
Just so many things, and again, I don't want us to spend like this whole podcast talking about that, just because again, I think most people at this point are probably trying to get over it
I think,
and
yeah,
move.
most people want us to say, hey, what are we going to do going into next season? Address some of the needs the team has, and hey, how can we fix, what happened the last month or 6 weeks or 2 months of the season going into next year? Make sure something like that doesn't happen again, so you're playing your best football at the end of the year.
Right. So let's. I mean, let's get into that. But before we do, I mean, it was the final game for Haynes King. Talk about a guy who has been surprisingly under a bit of fire from Georgia Tech fans, and really from a lot of college football fans, I think, because it seems like the way that the Georgia Tech season ended, particularly with this BYU game, it's a throwaway, a couple decisions away. Maybe there's a couple times there at the end where he could have run and picked up a first down, maybe even a touchdown, knowing him, where he opted to throw it to Jamal Haynes rather than to a receiver. And obviously, you don't have Isaiah Kenyon out there, but throwing it to Jamal Haynes, it seemed like he got a little fixated um, on him at the end of the game there. What did you think about how he handled that last drive? And
Yeah,
obviously not the way that we wanted him to go out, but just your thoughts on him in that game.
he definitely seemed like, I don't know, there must have been something going on because there were plenty of opportunities that I think that he would have usually run the ball.
I agree.
So I don't know if there was an injury. He could have been concussed. He could have been. There's a lot of different variables. I think that he would have usually run the ball there. So that was interesting to see. And I hate it for Haynes King because these last couple of games really have not gone the way that you wanted. He could have had, and he still had a great career. And I think he even said it in his post game press conference how, look, I'm proud of my career, but I'm not proud of how these last couple of weeks have ended. So I feel for him overall. He's been a great player. He'll be in the Georgia Tech Hall of Fame for sure. ACC Player of the Year. No one can take that. But now that opens up a can of worms for this offseason is who's going to be in that position for Georgia Tech in 250 days and who's going to be calling plays for Georgia Tech in 250 days. And I think that kind of transitions us to where are we going and how are we going to get there.
Yeah, for sure. It's a glaring hole, man. I mean, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you think going into this offseason, you got it figured out. Follows your guy. You got a bright future ahead, honestly, and potentially a brighter future. Some might have argued that the ceiling could have even been higher with Philo and Faulkner than with what we've been seeing with King and Faulkner as of late. That is no longer. Georgia Tech's offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner, along with their backup quarterback Aaron Fowler, headed to Gainesville, along with a lot of the rest of the staff. And
Trent
now we've
McKnight now,
got,
I guess he's gone for sure
yeah,
too.
yeah, McKnight's gone. We got a lot of holes to fill, man, and a big one's quarterback. Is there any names in the portal early on that you like? There's a couple that I like for sure
I
that
like
I
that
think will.
guy from North Texas who just went in, and I'm sure everybody and their mother is going to want him to come play for them. So I don't know how much coin Tech's willing to spend because that would be probably my option number one. But I'm sure he's going to get looks. He had a great year, and he has 3 years of eligibility left too. The
He's
guy
going to be
Colton
a
Joseph
hot
from Old
target.
Dominion is a guy you want to maybe take a look at. Uh, the people on the roster right now, I'm sure Graham Knowles is going to. It feels like he's going to stay right now. I would be shocked if I don't really know where else he would be able to go or transfer unless he wanted to go
I
down a
think he's
level.
planning on staying at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I would think as well. And so I'm going to be interested to watch him in the spring, and he'll bring. Obviously, we're going to bring somebody in to compete with him and Grady and see what happens. But I think a lot of that will depend. I think the quarterback's really going to depend on who's the OC is going to be because I think the OC is going to want to go get his guy. And he'll probably have a list, whoever they hire the OC, whether we keep Weinke and promote him or they go out and they get a different guy. Again, it's been kind of all quiet on the Western Front from that perspective. But that OC, I'm sure Brent's going to have to ask him, hey, who do you want as quarterback? Do you have a list of guys that we can go get? So that's what my thought is on that. But it's certainly a big question mark considering you don't know who your quarterback or OC is going to be going into next season.
It is, yeah. I mean, Messermaker, like you said, from North Texas, is going to be a huge target for a lot of teams, and obviously that's going to make it difficult for Georgia Tech. But just because it's difficult, don't mean it's impossible, guys. Eric Rivers was a dude that so many schools were after this past offseason, and he ultimately ends up choosing the Jackets, and partially I would assume that is because of Haynes King. So I think it's important if you're going to get a good quarterback in the portal. Kind of like Patrick was just talking about, I think you need to have a good offensive coordinator in place. I don't think that's the end all be all for these guys, but it would certainly help with their decision making process in choosing Georgia Tech. And then also, I think he's got to see that he's got some weapons, or at least that Georgia Tech is willing to spend for some weapons, which I think they're going to be. I really do. Um, if we're able to retain Isaiah Canyon, obviously that's a guy that any quarterback will be excited about. Jordan Allen is another one that's like, okay, talk about a yak yards kind of guy. You get him the ball on a slant, and you might end up with an 80-yard pass
Yeah,
for
throw a jet.
throwing a 5-yard ball.
Yeah, do a little jet sweep toss to him, and he's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, just like that, you got a QBR of 100. So, I mean, there's guys currently in the locker room that I think quarterbacks would be excited about, but still, I think it would be important for them to see and hear that we're willing to do what we need to do in the portal to make Georgia Tech as competitive next year as they were this year. So, outside of Mestamaker, there's a few names that I like. Byron Brown is one from South Florida. I think
I'd
he's
be I'd be a get.
I think he's an interesting guy. I'm trying to pull it up here. How good was he? I mean, I saw him running a lot of dudes over. Was he efficient as a passer as well?
Yeah, he was pretty efficient. I mean, kind of feast or famine in those Alex Golesh offenses where they, live off the home run ball where play action and they have a guy kind of running wide open. But he certainly, I mean, he had a really good career. I would think that he might be going to Auburn, but maybe Auburn's got a different idea because I feel like that would have been announced. I've heard rumors he's going to Auburn to follow Golesh, but
Well, I mean, the portal doesn't officially open for another day or two, so I
man, I
guess we'll
love
have
how
to
all
wait.
these players are entering the portal, and I'm like, the portal doesn't even open until Friday. So, and it's all going
Yeah,
to happen fast, guys. I don't think we realize this year the portal's only open from the 2nd to the 16th. So, I know last year it was sort of all spring. People were entering, and even after spring practice, you say, okay, maybe we'll have some guys go into the portal. Like the next 2 weeks are going to be insane. For Georgia Tech's going to have a lot of departures, a lot of people come in. So be prepared for that because it's going to
yeah,
get
we'll have
wild.
some emergency pods for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. I gotta make sure I'm not as busy as I was at work today because I wasn't able to check anything to see if we got any portal entries or staff changes or people in on the
DJ
staff.
Moore's the only one that I've seen from Tech enter the portal. Kind of expected, I would say.
I
Hasn't
didn't even
really.
know that. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
news to me. But yeah, he probably needs to go someplace to play. He's been hampered by injuries, so good luck to DJ. I know he graduated as well.
for sure. Yeah, hasn't really seen the field much, like you said, likely or mostly due to injuries. A guy that a lot of people were super excited about came in as
As
a
a receiver,
receiver and expected him to be pretty good. And he very well could still be good. Hopefully, he'll stay healthy and wherever he ends up next. And like Patrick said, good luck to him. But a couple more names, and then Patrick, let's also talk about some guys that we don't want. Because there's definitely a few of those names for me as well. Sam Levitt's a guy that I would obviously take along with, like you said, Mestamaker and Byron Brown. I'd be happy with Rocco Becht from Iowa State if we were able to somehow lure him in here. And I'm just going to say it, man, because I think this is a hot take. I would be fine with Tech taking a chance on DJ Lagway.
I would
Hands up.
too. I would too.
Hands up.
Look, you talk about a guy that has been more successful than Haynes King was prior than when he came to Georgia Tech. Nobody wanted Haynes King before he came to Tech.
Yeah.
He was injury prone. He didn't really live up to expectations. DJ Lagway, those 8 games his freshman year was great. That's a great hot take. I would take DJ Lagway as well. You put him in competition with some of our guys we already have on the roster. And we also are bringing in a freshman as well. So
You know what's
if we
so
can
funny,
get
Patrick, about what you just said? If a Florida fan or a lot of fans, to be honest, that aren't Tech fans, heard you say put DJ Lagway in a quarterback competition with the guys we currently have on our roster, they'd be like, these guys are freaking nuts, man. Lagway's not going there unless he's going to be the starter. And I think he's probably looking for that. He's probably looking for a place where he feels he can go and start right away. And you would probably assume Tech would be one of those places. But like you said, man, that's honestly such a good comparison, especially with the ball protection stuff, because that's the biggest knock on Lagway right now is his ball protection. And talk about someone who is able to really improve on that throughout his career at Georgia Tech and Haynes King. It would be interesting to see what Chris Weinke could do with him if he ends up still as the quarterback's coach or the offensive coordinator. But yeah, those are some names that I would really love. I think there's some other guys too that I'd be happy with, but I don't want Jackson Arnold at all. I
no,
think
God no.
that's a clear and obvious downgrade from Haynes King. And just looking through this list here, that would probably be my biggest one that I would say let's not take that guy. Other than that, I mean, I'm fine with any of these names, to be honest. Brendan Sorsby's another good one. he's going to be another popular guy in the portal. But he's one that I would obviously take as well.
Yeah, those are all really good names, and there's probably some people that we don't think are going to enter the portal that will. So, so you also have to look back at who are some of the like Dylan Longren at Boston College. I wouldn't hate that. Maybe that would be an option. I wouldn't love it. Wouldn't be my option number one, but I think if you needed to bring a guy that has starting experience and has proven he can put up some good, decent numbers on a pretty bad team, that'd be an option as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But again, I think for some of these kids having an offensive coordinator, especially for these guys that might only have a year or two left, that becomes more important for people like that. So let's
Right.
talk about that a little bit. It's like you said, it's been super quiet on that front. I think a lot of people were saying that the bowl game was a tryout for Chris Weinke. It feels a little bit weird that we don't really know a whole lot yet, and maybe we made that up in our heads that was a tryout. Maybe we didn't. But if it was, would you hire Chris Weinke based on what you saw in the BYU game?
Based on the first half, probably. Based on the
Yeah.
second half, no.
Yeah,
Chris Weinke, it's hard to put all the blame on him because there
for sure.
was some things. Because in the first half, you were obviously, I like the play calling being aggressive inside the 10, where we had struggled, where just mainly run the ball. So I thought that was good. But in the second half, scoring 0 points in the second half is something that I think would give me a lot of red flags. If you did do that, you'd want to bring in another maybe co-OC or something like that. I wouldn't hate it. It wouldn't be my number one choice. But right now, I'm pretty much at a loss. I don't know anybody else. I don't know where the status is on like Chip Kelly or Corey Dennis or any of those guys that we talked about a couple of weeks ago during our podcast. So I'm not really sure.
That's what's been weird to me, Patrick, is you hear about those two names. You hear Chip Kelly, you hear Corey Dennis, and those were confirmed, seen on campus guys. They came, they interviewed, and it's been quiet ever since. I think a lot of people would say, all right, well, it's probably one of them. It doesn't feel like that's the case, though. Is that how you're feeling too?
Yeah, because all momentum seems to be gone with those two guys because hey, like usually when something like that happens and the guys on campus or they're having an interview, it starts progressing and things happen or a leak happens pretty fast. Especially with Chip Kelly's not coaching anywhere, guys. I don't know why you would have that one away. And Corey Dennis has now been, I think his bowl game was over a week ago with UNLV. So it's
That's
shocking.
another guy I don't want, by the way, is Calandria. I wouldn't want us to take him.
Did he did officially did go in the
Yeah,
the
he's in
portal.
the portal.
He
Yep.
was pretty brutal in the bowl game. He was brutal in the
Yep.
conference championship. Yeah, that would be. I really have a rule. I think I don't want a guy on their third school. That's in the portal. That's something where I think you draw the line because if they failed at two schools or they're leaving, that there's clearly an issue there. I think a lot of times kids go to a place and it doesn't work out. That first school, all right, give them a chance. Come transfer into a better school or better opportunity. But when there are these kids that are on their third or fourth school, it's a major red flag. And you wonder how much like they could really get the locker room on their side and become a leader. I don't know. Maybe that's just my take, but that's something I've always kind of thought.
Yeah, and then just back to the OC thing. It's just interesting, man. I mean, anything that we could say at this point would just be pure speculation. There's just nothing. Like
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
do it. I'll still do it. They haven't given me a call. I'll do it. I'll be the OC. Sure.
we're still open for
Yeah,
Patrick
give me a
Brand if you're
call.
listening.
Jared can be my co-OC. How about we'll be co-OCs.
We'll be lighting it up out there. You're gonna see a lot
Yeah.
of trick plays. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. But it's just, I mean, it's almost not even worth talking about because it's pure speculation at this
Yeah,
point.
we'll do an emergency pod once we hear something or we have some more substance to talk about. Right now, it's all speculation, and I literally have no inside track. If I feel like it's the most well-kept secret if there is something that's going on
I
because
think it is a secret. I really do. I feel like it's done. I just have a feeling that it's
I
done.
just feel like it's somebody between people I know, people you know,
Yeah, somebody would know.
some of the reporters that we would have heard something, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. That'd be a good job for them keeping it quiet. If that's the case, we need to go ahead and announce it because the portal's open in 3 days.
Yeah, and that to me is another reason why I feel like it could be Winky because it's like if maybe the announcement was supposed to happen right after the bowl game, and Brent's like, all right, let's give these fans some time to cool off a little bit. Maybe have a more level-headed reaction when we
Yeah.
announce this hire. I mean, I think Winky as a recruiter would be pretty good. He's a Heisman winner, guys. Let's not forget about that.
I mean,
He's
you can look
developed.
at what he did with Haynes King in his career.
Yes.
That's it. That's Exhibit A right there. I think that's a huge like you say, hey, look, tell DJ Lagway, get him on the phone. had a kid that was in your shoes, had some injuries, and didn't really have, a lot. The coach left at his previous place. Literally a very similar situation. So I think that if you want a DJ Lagway that's a little bit high risk, high reward, Chris Weinke could tell that story really well.
100%. And he, regardless of whether it's his OC or QB's coach, he needs to stay on the staff for sure.
Agreed. I think
he's
he will. Him
he,
and Brent are really tight, and that he's been here since
yeah.
he took over as interim.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like he's a really valuable piece to our offensive staff, and if it happened, I wouldn't hate it. I think the most fair thing for Tech fans to do right now would just let's not jump to any conclusions yet on how good or not good Chris Weinke would be as an OC. I mean, if it was a tryout, he's probably making the team as a bench guy. And I think that's in your first game ever calling plays as an OC against a really good team in BYU. I mean, you got 400 yards of offense. That's not bad. That's really not
It's not
bad.
bad, no. Technically did better than Buster did his last 2 games as an OC, so let's
Literally.
be honest.
Literally, and I mean, everyone was singing his praises. Heck, I was. I tweeted out, "Let him cook"
Hey,
in the
you
first half.
texted me. You said something about you texted me in all caps like Winky during the first half. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah. I mean, everyone was
good things. So let's not. Yeah, I don't
everyone
want
was so excited, and it felt like the conservativeness in the second half wasn't just him. That might have been coming from the top guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
Brent. That's a lot of that, like the clock management issues. Those are on Brent. And again, that's Brent's the head coach. He has to be able to step in and intervene on some of those like that. But that's just I still can't get over that. I think
because even on that play you're talking about with Jamal, the third down where he runs, I think it was like 3rd and 8. He got 7. I mean, we could have gone, but that might have been no. I think that was the one where we were on like our own 20 or something like that.
oh yeah, that could have been it. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think that we got to get the players because we really don't know what the team's going to look like. We clearly know that Brent has his homework cut out for him. And again, this isn't me trying to bash Brent because he's done a lot of really good things to revitalize the fan base. I'm just saying, like, I'm going to be critical of him because I'm a fan. I'm not some objective analyst. I love Georgia Tech, and it's probably my biggest passion. So that's why I am very critical. I want him to be successful. So
yeah, this is Georgia Tech coverage from a Georgia Tech angle, guys. If you come here expecting things objective, you're in the wrong place. We're always going to lead Georgia Tech in all things that we say and all things that we do, and that's just the way that it is. Like you said, we are fans at the end of the day. But before we go, this is for the most part just been like we were saying in the beginning. We're just chatting. But one last thing that I feel like we should do just before we get off. You start out 8-0, you finish 9-4, Patrick. Let's just do it. Let's give a grade on the season. But let's put it into perspective because that's the only context given at the moment. Starting out 8-0, going 9-4. We went 7-5 the last 2 years, 7-6 if you include the bowl game. So knowing what he inherited, knowing that, I had give me a grade, Patrick. Give me a grade.
look, it's really close to C plus B. I'm going to go B minus.
Okay.
B minus.
What's the basis on the B minus?
Basis on the B minus is how you finished, not getting 10 wins, also not making the ACC, losing to Georgia, and losing another boy. Just the way you finished, and then also not having a great recruiting class. So I think that's again, if he wins that bowl game, I'm probably B plus, because there's a huge difference. I'm probably B plus, but it's just so hard to get over the last 7-8 weeks.
Yeah,
and B minus is not bad. If you offered me 9-4 going into next season for say a year from now, 9-4, I'd probably take it right as of right now, and that could be a grade. That could be a B plus as well. But I think that the standard's been raised for Georgia Tech. I don't think that 5 to 7 wins is going to cut it year in and year out right now. So I think that if Brent can get this thing where he's getting 8-9 wins a year, and then he can sprinkle in a 10-win playoff run every 4 years or so, then he's doing something right. But I just think the ending to the season really tanked it for me.
It has been rough, man. I mean, it has been rough. What a time to start making Georgia Tech content. I'm sitting in my car.
Yeah, we kind of ruined it because ever since we started the podcast, we've been on a tailspin. So I'm just kidding. I don't want to blame it on that.
Microphone in my car set up, talking all this smack. We're ranked seventh in the country. We're 8-0, and I'm making the most of it, and I'm gonna do that next year too. If that's how things shake out next year, I'll be in the exact same place, and you guys can bet on that. And I don't regret a thing that I said or did in those
Oh yeah,
moments
100.
because
250 days, guys. I can't wait. I'm already counting down.
yeah, I
But,
mean,
let's hear your grade.
my I would probably be a little more friendly. Um, I do hate the way that the season ended. I mean, it's been going 3-9 3 years in a row is extremely difficult. Like extremely
Creates
difficult.
character for you for sure.
It does. And that is hard, but for a different reason. Like that's just like I mean, if Jeff Collins could have won 6 games, we probably would have given that guy like a B plus, A minus. But this is a different it's just a different era now. And Brent has proven that he's good enough to, not 9 wins almost felt like now looking back at the season, now that we have the hindsight that we have, 9 wins like is the floor for how this season went, and that's why I feel like you gave a pretty fair grade, and why I feel like I would probably go B, just because it didn't have to be this way. There was a couple close games that we could have lost. Look at Clemson,
Yeah.
Wake Forest. Look at Boston College.
Oof, yeah.
But there's also close games that we should have won in NC State, and Pitt, and heck, I mean, you could
Georgia,
argue Georgia as well.
BYU.
And
Yeah.
BYU, yeah, BYU is obviously a glaring one.
Yeah.
But
That's I
I
mean,
don't
just
know,
having
man.
3 shots to win 10 games and going 0 for 3 was just a gut punch.
When I look at the grand scheme of things, that's why I go B, because winning 9 games and being in the national conversation for the entire season, like Georgia Tech was, I can respect and I can very much appreciate that, because it has been a long time and it's been a very fun year for that reason. But again, it just felt like where we ended was the floor, and it's just been blow after blow after blow for these last 2 months,
Yeah.
and it sucks, man. It sucks. You should have seen the tweets, Patrick, that I had in the drafts, and I hate to say this, but the tweets I had in the drafts at halftime and before of that football game. I mean, I had. Oh, I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm gonna air it out. I'm gonna air out the dirty laundry here. I had tweets in the draft saying like, "Congratulations to Brent Key on winning the Pop Tarts Bowl in the 10th game of the season. Considering what he
stop.
inherited, all that."
I get off my I can't tweet during games because I get to it. Also I'll text maybe you and a couple other of my close tech buddies but like I'll get texts that my phone's blowing up during the games of people that just like good or bad, and I have to stay focused in during it.
Well, there's a reason that it stayed in the drafts, man, because
Yeah,
I would have
I
hated.
don't- like
I would have
yeah,
hated to pre-fire that tweet, and the next thing you know, we end up losing the dang game. But I also did have a loss tweet saved in there as well, just in case, because I did text a friend at halftime, 21-10, saying that a 24-21 loss feels more likely to me than a 20 or than a Georgia Tech victory. It ended up
you're
being
just off by
25.
1 point.
Yeah, it ended up being 25, but I mean, I didn't expect them to go for 2 there. If we make the field goal, they probably don't go for 2 there.
Yeah, and then we
But
can just kick a field goal to tie the game on that fourth down. I mean, just a whole lot, just a whole bunch of what ifs.
Yep, yep, yep. We
But
sailed them. We sailed Dean Patterson by the length of a Pop Tart. And I want to give a shout out to Dean Patterson as well. He played a pretty good game.
yeah, he got held on a ton, so he would have had a lot more stats. And if that ball is 6 inches lower, whew.
A Pop Tart lower, and we're having a different conversation potentially right now. But overall, guys, it's been a fun year. We've said a lot on the show.
Yeah, fans have been awesome. Fan engagement's been fun, man. The
For sure.
atmosphere's been awesome.
And
Next
it's
year's
gonna be
probably going to be better.
it's all yeah, exactly. It's only going up. We're going to continue doing this, and even if the off season doesn't go amazing, we're going to continue to sit here the way we are right now and try to look at the positives, try to push Georgia Tech and in the most positive light that we possibly can. Again, this is a Georgia Tech show. We're covering Georgia Tech from a Georgia Tech angle, and we're not going to sit here and be doomsdayers. But anything you got before we go, man?
Last thing, basketball's won 3 in a row over pretty much a bunch of YMCA teams. So, well, they do play Duke on New Year's Eve at 4 o'clock. If we'll probably cover that a little bit more once we get into ACC play.
For sure, for
It's
sure.
a little bit more competitive. Again, they're playing really poor competition, but yeah, quite the measuring stick on New Year's Eve at 4 o'clock. So we'll get into more basketball if it's worth covering. If not, so but yeah,
Absolutely.
that's it on my part, guys. But Also shout out to some of you guys that came up to me at the Pop Tart Bowl down there and introduced yourselves. And glad to hear you guys are listening and enjoying the show. And we're gonna keep doing it through better or for worse, man.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. Yeah, basketball we'll definitely get more into now with the football season officially being over with. Expect some emergency podcasts from us in the coming weeks. As Patrick mentioned, things are going to be moving really, really fast. So, be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. We'll be quicker to the news. I think for this, Patrick obviously coming back from the bowl game. Um, we wanted to give it some time to marinate. But as the news breaks throughout this offseason, we'll definitely be quicker, even if it's a 20-minute live, just hopping on and chatting with you guys and breaking down the news and giving our initial reactions. We'll be sure to be all over that stuff. Like you said, basketball, we'll get into some baseball stuff as well. I'm looking forward to it, man. We're not going away. We're just getting started. So thank you all very much, as Patrick mentioned, for the support. It's been a blast. We're excited to continue into the new year. But if we don't speak to you guys again before the new year, hope you all have a great one. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. And that's all from me, Patrick.
All right, yeah, go Jackets, guys. The hell, Georgia.
Go Jackets. We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Jolly Good Fellows.
See ya.